Well, hello. We are back with AOB, Any Other Business. If you are not familiar with Any Other Business, it is a show that we put out on a separate feed under the podcast where we talked about our business adventures. Now, we stopped doing our podcasts, and the reason why, to be completely honest, is we didn't enjoy it. We had to go to a video studio to record it, and it ended up feeling like a job. However, people have asked us, why did you stop? Well, now you know. And why won't you start again? Well, we thought, okay, if there's demand, let's satisfy that demand. And we are back with AOB. And we're going to slot Any Other Business in once a month, one short episode in the podcast feed once a month. It's easy for us to do, and we know you're going to enjoy it. Why? Because we run a property business, and we do over £100 million a year in property deals. Having behind the scenes access to that knowledge and that information, I think, is going to be super valuable to any property investor. Now, if you love property or are interested in property, you'll enjoy Any Other Business. But if you love property and you love business, well, my word, you are going to absolutely love these episodes. They're going to be short, they're going to be once a month, and we're going to give you the behind the scenes access. Rob, I'm excited to be back. But I feel we need to bring people up to speed. It's been a while since we did the last episode. We need to talk about what's been happening. What did last year look like? And also, I think people will be interested to know, what do we have planned for this year?
Okay, well, let's start by looking back. And some really great stuff happened last year. Like you said, we did over £100 million worth of property deals through Property Hub Invest. We both expanded our personal portfolios. My book came out and it was a Sunday Times bestseller. We secured our weekly column in the Sunday Times. So there were loads of super positives. But I think, Rob, if I had to sum up last year, I think of it as the year in which we did a lot of hard things to set up this year to be great. Because we did go through some things last year that were not easy, but necessary.
Yeah, even with all those successes and wins that you talked about, Rob, I view last year as a challenging year, but a challenging year that needs to happen to set up what should be, hopefully, and we'll talk about it, a very exciting and positive year. We've learned so much over the years, and last year, based off those lessons, those learnings and understandings, we made big calls, big decisions, some very tough decisions. But by doing what we've done, it's put the business in a far stronger position. So some of the things that we decided to do was pivot Portfolio. So Portfolio was an app-focused fund. Now it's just a fund. The demand for the app wasn't there. The fund is a great idea, and people who want to be hands-off, that's perfect for them. But the app needed serious uptake, and for many reasons, and it wasn't just one, for many, many reasons, the app wasn't getting the traction we wanted. And I can rattle off some of the big ones to satisfy your curiosity, but the market sentiment last year impacted Portfolio. Regulation was so much tougher than we'd anticipated. We took advice before going in, but I think the advice was misguided or just plain wrong, and that meant that what we thought we'd be able to do in terms of marketing and what we were actually able to do were just worlds apart. Now, with that pivot, we then had to make team restructures, which is always difficult, because some roles then become redundant, and that's tough because it's not those individuals' fault. They were brilliant. That's why we hired them. We were very proud of the team that we have and the team that we've had in the past. But certain roles did not need to exist once the app went. So we had to make some, difficult decisions around a team restructure. And that really just makes things hard, Rob. But they were necessary things. And I truly do believe that because we've done the hard stuff, made the big calls, we're in a better position now.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's all the kind of stuff that's not fun while you're living through it, but because you were doing it for the right reasons, you feel good about having done it afterwards. And we'll talk about some of the things it set it up for. But first, I think it's worth saying a word about the market, because obviously, as a property business, what the property market is doing has a big bearing on the business. And as well as all the internal things that we were working on, last year, I'm sure listeners will know, was not a great one for the property market. Mortgage rates started the year having spiked and then went up further, hitting a peak in the middle of the year. Everyone was trying to figure out how to deal with that. And the news around property prices was just wall-to-wall negative, even though in the end, property prices barely fell over the year. And according to Halifax's index, actually went up a bit. You wouldn't have that impression from looking at the press. So obviously, as a business that transacts in property, that's going to have an effect. Or so you would think. In fact, We said that we did over £100 million in property deals last year. That was actually more than we'd done the previous year. So even though 2022, not a good year for the property market, for Property Hub Invest, which is our business that sources property for high net worth clients, it was a really good year. I think you can put that down to a couple of things. One, give ourselves some credit, or more accurately, give the team some credit. The business gets stronger every year, builds better relationships, finds better deals, etc., etc. But also I think it's a lot about our client base and people's mindset around property. Because we found that with the fund, when the fund was trying to attract people who were maybe a bit newer to property, putting in smaller amounts of money, the headlines that they were reading really put them off. But for the type of clients who use Property Hub Invest, who are seeing this as a long-term thing, a long-term protector and compounder of wealth, it really didn't put them off at all. And they saw it as the opportunity that it was to pick up great deals in a quieter market. So that, Rob, was obviously really good for the business. And an insight that I kind of knew, but that really made it land.
It did. And I'm not surprised. Actually, you know what? I suppose I am surprised. Not because of the market sentiment, but actually because of our own focus. We had to do so many different things last year, and a lot of it was around portfolio and the pivot that we talked about. With all that time and attention and running the fund, it meant that Property Hub Invest was, if I'm being honest, probably a little neglected. But it shows the strength and the quality of our team, that it still continued to grow. And Rob, I think that moves us nicely into talking about this year and what's happening, because the big word, the words that we are using over and over again in 2024 is focus. So now we have more time to focus on Property Hub Invest. And it's a great business already. It's great for the clients and it's great for our team and us. It is a wonderful business that is profitable year after year, and it's been running a long, long time now, and it's built up a great track record. And it's a bit embarrassing to admit this on a podcast that's going out to tens of thousands of people, but because Property Hub Invest was easy and profitable, we got distracted and decided to do lots and lots of other things. We've had lots of businesses over the years. Some have been very successful and some less so. And we've been very open about those businesses and documented our wins and losses over the years. And I'm pleased to say we've had more wins than losses. But we've come to the realization, and this is the embarrassing part, that we've got a business that is successful and profitable, and with more time and attention can become very successful and very profitable. And that excites me because we can take Property Hub Invest on a growth journey now. And we have a destination and a goal in mind that we'll share on a future AOB. But we are excited about where we're at today and where we can take it, because we're not starting from scratch. We're starting from success. It's building upon that now. And that's really exciting.
I know. Do more of what works, right? Absolutely wild concept. So yeah, this year, focus, no shiny objects. And a big part of that focus, as it should be in any business, of course, is on the numbers. And something that we're doing this year, which we've never done before, is share those numbers far more openly with our entire team. So previously, we've had a senior management team, of which Rob and I are parts, and there may be 4 or 5 others. And that team would look at the financial numbers, and those financial numbers, of course, drive a lot of the decision making within the business, and that would come down to everyone else who would execute. Now we're sharing all the financial and performance numbers across all of the business with all of the team. So we had a session up in our Manchester office a couple of weeks ago where we took literally everyone in the business through all the key numbers. And that's already, even though we've only been doing this for a couple of months, been such a positive move. Because it's like before, everyone was just working on their little thing and they had their blinkers on. And yes, they could see some of the metrics that they directly affect, but they didn't have the big picture. And now everyone's got the big picture. Everyone is able to make better, more informed decisions within their areas, but also make suggestions for the wider business as well. I thought it would be a good thing to do. I was enthusiastic about it, but I completely underestimated the impact it would make.
Yeah, it's been transformational. And that's a big claim, within a couple of months, but it really has. I feel a real shift in attitudes amongst the team. And it's not those bad attitudes before. There's just a hunger to be successful. The term is called open book management. And if you want to research this a little bit more, if you've got your own business, a great book to pick up is The Great Game of Business, who've really popularized this concept. And part of the book is not just being transparent with the numbers and the finances and showing them to your team, but also rewarding them for that performance. So we've also rolled out a profit share for every member of the team, not just the senior team, every member of the team. And I think that's the right thing to do, because for me, if we are saying to everyone, here, look at the books, let's make this successful. If we then do truly become even more successful, that's because people have made an impact. They've had access to that information and they've been able to take action upon it. And therefore, you should share the profits, in my opinion, anyway. You should share the profits with those people. And it feels good. If you don't have an abundance attitude, there are other words you could use that aren't as kind. But if you don't, then you may think, no, I want to keep everything. But actually, if you make more because you've all worked hard on it, then give more out. And give as get. I truly believe in that. I've felt it all my life, that the more you give out, the more you share. This podcast being a great example, you get stuff in return. The generosity and the wins and the opportunities that have been created because we've given so much away on the podcast over the years is incredible. We didn't start the podcast to say, oh, well, if we do this, we'll get a best-selling book, we'll get a column in the Sunday Times, we'll get all these wonderful things. No, we started it with an intention to share, with good intentions. And good intentions, if you do them often enough, I really do believe that the universe will reward you. I'll stop the woo stuff now, but I really do believe in it. And because of the open book management and because of the profit share, obviously, us and the entire team are very, very focused on growth. Not just this year, but every year moving forward. Growing Property and Invest into the biggest and best version it can be. And we're completely committed to that. And we don't just measure it on profit, we measure it on our ratings from our customers, our clients. We measure all the numbers, and people are targeted against all the numbers, and we have names against all those numbers. If this is something you're interested in, then drop us a message. Instagram's a good place. We're both on there. Rob's is at the Rob Dix, mine's at Rob_Bence. Messages, DM us on there. If you want an episode on us talking about open book management and how we do it and operate it, if there's enough interest, we can do that. That's the great thing about this pod. Wouldn't work on the main property podcast, but it can work here. And as you can probably tell by my enthusiasm, I'm completely sold on this concept. Now, Rob, we had a good year last year, a very good year. We grew last year and we didn't have this stuff in place and we didn't have the market sentiment backing us up either. People were saying property was not a good thing to do last year, but yet we grew. This year, we've changed things internally. But what about externally? How are you seeing market sentiment this year impacting our business?
Well, this is the interesting thing about doing what we do, because you get all the data that comes out from various sources. So you get the Rightmove data, which is helpful because that's about people's behavior at the very start of the process. How many mortgage decisions in principle are being requested? How many listings are there? How many viewing requests are there? And their data showed that the first couple of weeks of January are way up on last year across all of those. You also get the RICS data, which measures the sentiment of estate agents and surveyors. And that's useful too. And that came out the other week, and that shows improvements as well. So all the external signs are looking positive. But we get our own data, and it's not necessarily the kind of data that you go, oh, this is up by 3%. Although obviously we can look at number of inquiries into the business, how many potential clients are getting in touch with us, and that is up as well. But you also get a feeling from the team talking to a lot of investors every day. And sentiment is positive there as well. As we talked about, the type of people who are interested in working with us aren't the type to get overly put off by doom and gloom in the news. But naturally, concerns and obstacles will start creeping into conversations. Sentiment this year has been much more positive. We had our first launch of the year. That sold out. That's not news. The vast majority of our launches sell out.
I think you're playing it a little safe there, Rob, or you're being a bit modest. It didn't just sell out. It sold out twice over. We had twice the demand for the amount of units that we actually had.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's not just that it's a sellout, but it was such a dramatic oversell that's like, okay, so people aren't just feeling good, people are really wanting to take action and really build their portfolio this year. So from the hard data we've got and the softer stuff, all of it's looking positive. You never know what's going to happen in the year ahead, right? Things can change very, very quickly. But the early indications are certainly that this is going to be a more positive year than last year.
So that's your first AOB of 2024. Let us know on Instagram what you think. Remember, it's at the Rob Dix and at Rob_Bence. That's where you'll find us. Drop us a message. Let us know what you think of this episode and what do you want us to cover. We've got ideas. We want to talk to you about the investment areas. that we're going to be targeting for Property Hub Invest. We want to give you the details of how we put some of these deals together, the performance of those investments. There's so much that we can give you that isn't well placed or suited for the main podcast, the property podcast, but hopefully still super interesting and useful. So we'll be back in a month's time. It's once a month this episode. That's it, but hopefully we can pack it with value. It's good to be back, Rob.
It is good to be back, and we'll see you back here on Tuesday for Ask Rob and Rob. Until then, have fun. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.